Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. In today's video I'm going to be talking non-fiction and 5 great books I have read in the past. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and I've been meaning to make a video about non-fiction for the entirety of November, and here we are at the end of November and I haven't made any videos about non-fiction. Now, my favourite type of non-fiction books I have spoken about before on booktube, and that is books about books, because why wouldn't it be? I felt like I wanted to make a video about some non-fiction books that I've never talked about on my channel before, so I deliberately picked non-fiction books that I've kept on my shelf because I enjoyed them when I read them, and I read all of these before booktube, so it's kind of a backlist books here. Most of these were published in the early 2000s or 2010s, and all 5 of them are from different genres to each other, or subgenres if non-fiction is a genre. But there are so many different types and subjects of non-fiction that field is absolutely vast. This is not really a top 5 in any way, it's just 5 non-fiction books I have really enjoyed that I wanted to tell you about. And I also thought I would slip in here the best non-fiction book I've read this Nonfiction November, and one non-fiction book that I really want to read very soon. So let's start with 5 non-fiction books that I read quite some time ago but would happily read again and would highly recommend. Nearly all of these are about topics that I probably have spoken about on the channel that interest me. Each of the 5 books is probably representative of one interest of mine. I'll start with Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls by David Sedaris, and this is a book that I bought purely based on the cover and the cool title. I am easily led by exciting titles, and I thought that this was an interesting one. I also really loved this cover, and I think I ended up asking for this as a present. And this is a series of kind of short humorous essays or anecdotes, and I remember really enjoying this. As far as I remember, there were some very funny episodes in this book, and I thought that the writing was interesting. And amazingly, I've never gone on to read any more by David Sedaris, but if you have, or he's a favourite writer of yours, do let me know what would be another good one to pick up, because I did enjoy this one. I think David Sedaris is pretty famous as like a humour writer or a humorous essayist. If that's your sort of thing, I recommend this book, and this one was published back in 2013. The second one I'm going to talk about, it reflects my interest in football, and I've chosen from the sort of football sports genre this interesting book, Thinking Outside the Box by Brad Friedel. This one was published in 2009. The reason I was interested in this book is because Brad Friedel was for a long time the goalkeeper for the team that I support, which is Blackburn Rovers. Brad Friedel is an American goalkeeper, and I have read in my time quite a few football autobiographies, and this one, which was co-written by Malcolm McLean, is probably one of the ones that I think is the most thoughtful and intelligent, and I found it a very interesting book because I think goalkeepers are a bit of a breed apart. I think it takes a special talent and a special mindset to become a goalkeeper, and Friedel talks about that as well as his football career. If you have any interest in goalkeeping or football in general, this is an interesting football biography to pick up. So the next 3 are books that I would thoroughly recommend. These are my favourite 3 that I'm talking about today, and the first one is from the sort of travel genre, I would say, but with a bit of a twist, and this is Do Not Pass Go by Tim Moore. I really loved this one by Tim Moore, who I think is a travel writer and possibly a cyclist. This one is the oldest book on the list, from 2002, but I would highly recommend this if you are a fan of the game Monopoly and if you are interested in reading about London. The premise of this book is that Tim Moore visited all of the places on the Monopoly board, hence the title Do Not Pass Go, and the subtitle From the Old Kent Road to Mayfair. The Old Kent Road is of course the first property on a traditional English London Monopoly board, and Mayfair being the most expensive property on that board. I love the game Monopoly, I get very addicted to it. Unfortunately, I'm not actually that good at it, but I do enjoy playing it, and who hasn't had an epic game of Monopoly with their family when they were younger that went on for days? And if you would like to know more about London, and specifically those places that made it onto that traditional English Monopoly board, I would highly recommend Do Not Pass Go by Tim Moore. Next up, we have a favourite author. This is an author who I actually have mentioned on my channel multiple times, but I wouldn't say I've necessarily talked in detail about this book. This book is kind of part of a series of books about the same topic. So this is a book about cats, and it's by Tom Cox. This was published in 2013. Tom Cox now writes excellent non-fiction books about sort of nature and walking in the countryside and things like that. A wide eclectic range of all his interests basically. But before he was writing those, and before he was writing fiction, he was writing books about his life living with his 4 cats at the time. And this cat on the front is his very old cat, the bear. And I absolutely loved this series of 4 books. There are Talk to the Tail, Under the Paw, I can't remember which order those 2 go in. There's The Good, the Bad and the Furry, and there is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I actually read these, I believe, before I had a cat, and before I loved cats. They're very irreverent. There are quite a lot of swear words in these because one of his cats, Shipley, is quite foul-mouthed, and I really loved the 4 different personalities of the cats that Tom Cox has, and I just really enjoyed following his life with them. These are very humorous cat books. I very much enjoyed all 4 of them, but particularly this one. So highly recommend Tom Cox's cat books if you don't mind a funny and irreverent look at life living with cats. I definitely need to reread those ones now that I do have a cat. The final book that I want to recommend today will come as no surprise if you've watched my channel for very long, because it is a book about Agatha Christie, and this one is much more scientific than the other books on this list. It is A is for Arsenic, The Poisons of Agatha Christie, and this one was published in 2015. This was a really interesting look at all the different poisons that Christie used, and it looked in detail at those different poisons and which books Christie had used them in, how she came to be interested in them. I seem to remember this being quite scientific. I would like to read it again. Yes, if you are interested in Agatha Christie and you're interested in the science of poisons, this would be the perfect book for you. It's a really good non-fiction relating to Agatha Christie, but also tying in with like a more scientific view of that, which is not something that I always read. And this book details 14 different novels with 14 different types of poison. So here's the 5 books that I wanted to talk about that I have really loved in different areas of non-fiction in the past. All of them read prior to starting on Booktube. I also recently picked up a book from the library that I wanted to talk about that I am really looking forward to getting to, and that is Ghostland in Search of a Haunted Country by Edward Parnell. And this one details different places in Britain, I believe, places that have literary links and perhaps like ghostly links and links to like the myths and legends of Britain. So I became interested in this book because of Susan Cooper, because there is a chapter where Cornwall is talked about and the book Green Witch. So I definitely want to get to chapter 11, Trouble of the Rocks, but all of the other chapters sound super interesting as well. I think it features Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, I think it features M.R. James and Dickens. and all sorts of different places, all sorts of different literary links, and I absolutely can't wait to get to this, and it has an absolutely awesome cover. So that's one that I'm hoping to get to soon. The best non-fiction that I have read this Nonfiction November was actually an audiobook, and it was Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. This one, completely different genre again from all of the others, although it has been sort of classified as humour. I think this is because Fern Brady is a comedian, but this is Fern Brady's memoir talking about her experiences, specifically as an autistic woman who was not diagnosed until she was into her 30s. So I found this book absolutely fascinating, and it's recently appeared on the long list for the newly announced Nero Prize. If you're looking for a memoir to dig into, I would highly recommend this. The audiobook is very well read by the author. I just thought that this delved into a lot of different areas, and I found Fern Brady's experiences absolutely fascinating, and the way she wrote about them to be very moving. So I do recommend that, and I do recommend the audiobook if you are looking to fit in one more non-fiction in the month of November. Those were my five backlist non-fictions that I wanted to mention, a non-fiction that I want to get to, and a non-fiction that I've very much enjoyed this November. Do let me know in the comments, what have you been reading for Nonfiction November? Do you often pick up non-fiction, or are you quite a sporadic non-fiction reader like me? And if you are a non-fiction reader, I would love to hear your recommendations, perhaps in the genres that I've talked about. I would love to hear your non-fiction recommendations, so do let me know. If you have enjoyed this video today, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And if you don't have a comment to leave today, I would love you to leave me any emoji related to the books I've shown. Perhaps a football emoji, a board game emoji, if there is such a thing. Thanks for watching today, and I will hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.